See you, mate. So while I'm doing the brake cylinders, I just bolt the back one on as well. It's actually a one-piece hub. So I'll just grab the camera. So the actual hub bearings and that is all central on the rim, and then the sprocket just bolts straight onto that hub. So that didn't come with it, but the brakes, the brake unit and all that just bolts straight onto the frame, and the other end, the axle goes through it. So that's the sprocket acts as the brake disc as well, which you can see on the sprocket the marks where the disc has grabbed it and why it's slotted instead of solid. That just locks in the front axle from being able to pull out. That's better, the valve's not leaking. So the problem was just this little valve here. I'm glad I checked that. Now I'll just check the back one as well. So I went to just loosely bolt the tank on just so it was out of the way, because I really didn't want it getting scratched. And when I went to bolt it on, the actual bolts wouldn't go into the holes, and it was because of the paint. The paint had been sprayed into these holes. So not badly, but enough to stop the bolts going in. So I just bought this, and I'm just tapping out the holes just to get all the paint out of them. So the bars you can see behind me are the ones that go on the bike, but I've got these spare ones here. They're my brother's ones, and I'll be able to test fit them to the front of the bike, and they'll give me a good indication on if the fork stops have been set up correctly. So prior to disassembly, the forks were hitting the tank and causing an issue. So I'll just bolt these ones on. The only difference between these and the ones hanging on the wall that are eventually going to go on is that these are larger diameter. So the ones I've just measured, the ones I've got up on the wall are 1 1/4 inch. And these ones here are 1.5 inch, so a little bit larger. But what I'm really interested in, that's good. As you can see, there's probably about 5 millimeters between those bars and the tank, which means there'll be even more space between my bars and the tank. I'll just check the other articulation point, and that's the same, about 5 mil. So that's good. That means the fork stop that I got modified originally has worked, and the bars don't hit the tank anymore, which is really good news. So I just wanted to show you inside the computer box. It's housed in a nifty alloy frame. Everything that is electrical runs to it, including the speedo, the ignition, and the battery, the horn, and all the stuff running from the handlebars. The Moto Gadget M unit, it's pretty cool. That's this unit here. Basically, it's a simple input, process, output computer. So all the inputs come in this side, which is the turn signal, start, horn, the other turn signal, a config wire, which allows you to cycle through and change some options, light, brakes, and lock. And then on the output side, you've got the same thing: turn, start, horn, turn, light, the low output light for low beams, high output light for high beams, the brake, and then an auxiliary port. So the config port, which is here, basically you earth out that wire to because when you power it up, there's LEDs for each one of these things, and you're supposed to earth it out. Instead, there's a button here mounted in the case, so I can just press that and that earths it out, and that allows me to cycle through the options for the computer. You might be wondering what options. Well, some of the options you can do is modify different parts of the alarm system, because this is also built-in alarm to prevent the bike from starting, and also to actual chime, like to go off, to set off the alarm. Also, you can change a fair bit of things in terms of, for example, do you want your headlight on when the bike is on accessories mode but not started yet? Or if you turn the bike off, do you want the headlight to stay on for a certain amount of time? Things like that. I think the box is pretty cool. It's got fused for the start. It's got a inbuilt circuit breaker, self-resetting circuit breaker. So on one side, that's the battery in. On the other side, there's some power that comes out to a little distribution block there. And then you've got power going to the computer, and also power going to this black wire, which comes out to my ignition system, which that's a unit, and a self-enclosed unit that goes out to the through this wire, goes out to my coils, and then so all of the power for this runs in through a couple of thick gauge cable. The battery is positioned right next to the box, as you'll see when it's fitted. All in all, it's really just a housing to keep everything tidy. I mean, you could just mount this. That's supposed to be IP rated to be able to, withstand water. If you could find a spot for that, maybe under a seat or something, that unit would be fine, not in another housing. But I like how it's all enclosed together. Unfortunately, its positioning makes it hard to see this once it's bolted in. You can get under the bike and take this inspection cover off, but it really is hard work trying to look under and see all the options. The housing also, so that's the horn there, ignition, that's all bolted together on a piece of flat plate, 3mm plate. I pulled it apart last night. What happened was I'll show you if I can see it. It's a bit difficult to see, but so my oil pressure sender actually broke, and it sent oil flying all over this, and because this lid did not have the rubber seal in it, the oil went in. Didn't wreck anything, but I pulled it all apart and cleaned it last night just with contact cleaner, and just there was a couple of little, as you can see, because the bike is going to run LED turn signals and brake light, etc. Some diodes had to be put in on very thin gauge wire, and some of those wires were pulling out, so I just fixed them up and cleaned everything up, and that's pretty much ready to be bolted in.
type of girl. I'm psycho-like, but now I'm looking at a skeptically. This baby girl got all the right weaponry. Designer fabric, shoes and accessories. Sticky eyes, sweet voice, come on, me mentally. Be conversating in the lab shit, you know me, bro. Even spinning back and forth and rapping, and know just where it is. I'm internationally known. What happened to the fight? I'm internationally known, yo.
Thanks for watching Buildup episode 3. Next episode I'll be putting the engine in, along with the gearbox, and